because the more you spread your wings, the more easier structure you should have. Then only you will be able to concentrate on your core business rather than getting into the other side of the compliance. So you need to have the knowledge of all of these things before you proceed and start having those ventures functional. Since you don't get encouragement from the society, then it's just you who has to drive in yourself and your inner will, which has to strive for its best. Now, the exchange of information between one tax jurisdiction and the other is so transparent that they can easily, exchange the data of a particular applicant or a particular company.
For the future generation, we are going to do a big deal of favor.
I have traveled to more than 20 countries across 4 continents in the world.
Hello everybody, welcome to Entrepreneurship Simplified, and this show is going to introduce you to those brilliant ideas and the biggest leaders across industries who will help you to simplify entrepreneurship and leadership through their real life situations, challenges, failures and successes, so that you don't need to repeat the same mistakes, rather focus on your growth to realize your dreams much faster. And this show is being done in association with Young Indians. Young Indians is a movement for Indian youth to converge, lead, co-create and influence India's future. YI is playing a proactive role in India's development process. If you want to take part of India's growth and be successful, YI is a place to be. Bear in mind, this show has no script. Everything you hear on this show is heart to heart with real life experiences. And today's guest is a unique person who is both chartered accountant and lawyer. Is born with dwarfism, had challenging childhood as kids and adults used to make fun of him. However, he used that to his strength and received numerous awards for his work. He was conferred with Karamveer Chakra by United Nations. He was facilitated by His Excellency Governor of Haryana, Mr. Kaptan Singh Solanki, for his outstanding efforts done in Chartered Accountant fraternity. He was awarded CEO of the Year, a special recognition category by Union Minister Mr. Nitin Gadkari at ICAI Annual Awards 2020. He is an international speaker and has given 8 TEDx talks till date and featured in various TV channels like BBC and NDTV. He also had the honor of being the youngest speaker at BRICS Economic Forum Conference. He was also conferred with Global Icon Award by Anti-Corruption Foundation of India. Help me to welcome Himanshu Bakshi, International Taxation and Transfer Pricing Expert at Ernst & Young. Hi Himanshu, how are you doing?
Hi Rajesh, thank you so much for the introduction. I'm doing good, and it's indeed a pleasure for me to interact with you and all your lovely audience, and looking forward to have an amazing session today.
Thank you so much. And also, first of all, despite being a weekend, thank you so much for extending the time for, towards this show. And I just want to ask, right? Now you're a high achiever. You've been traveling the world, speaking across the countries and receiving the awards. But as I understood, right, you're in the childhood, having this issue of dwarfism might have impacted your level of confidence at that time. I would like to ask, what kind of mindset you had to really overcome the kind of challenges that, unfortunately, culture has put on?
So yes, that in itself, I would say, covers up my journey till now, because Rajesh, to be honest, and to throw up certain hard facts of life to the audience. Let me just start by saying that it's not that easy to be a differently abled in a society like ours, because it is considered as more of a taboo rather than any support. And this is what happened with me. It used to be more of that I was more of an alien to people around me rather than a human being, which impacted a lot in a way that it used to demotivate me a lot, because since you don't get encouragement from the society, then it's just you who has to drive in yourself and your inner will, which has to strive for its best to cope up with such adverse situations. So my journey has been that ways, and I, instead of getting shattered by the tantrums being thrown off and and various other comments being said, I use my different ability, because I don't like to use the word disability. I rather address it as a different ability. So I use my different ability to basically I would say sharpen in my skills, and to strive for the best, so that if at all I'm able to be successful, then probably it will be smallest of my contribution towards the society, and then probably people might get influenced by it, and it's what it was just that mantra wherein it was do or die for me, because had I given up right during my childhood, then I'm pretty much sure that I wouldn't have even been able to utter a single word what I am able to talk right now, right? So the journey hasn't been that great, but I always tell people wherever I go in terms of how one sees a life perspective. So I see it like if you or anyone has visited any of the hospital, then you would have seen that monitoring screen, right, which goes up and down. That's how the life is, because till the time you don't have the downfalls, and then you don't have the milestones, then it's not the joy of life. Rather, it's a monotonous way for you. And believe you me, at the end of the day, if you see a straight line in that screen in the hospital, then it shows that it's a dead end, right? So the same thing happens with the life, and I always believe that the life should have those speed breakers, because those are not the downfalls, rather those are the learning points, even for students, even for entrepreneurs, even for professionals, or for any section of the society, because it rather is a message from your life itself, that look, this is the shortfall where you are, but the sky is the limit for you, and it only energizes you to just rise up. So in and all, just to cut short, I would say I tried my best to make the journey from impossible to I am possible.
Wow, this is a really, really very, very inspiring, I would say, Himanshu. But let me ask you, right? It's a very common thing that most of the time that I get asked about is when you're talking about the leadership, right? I always see that as a leadership is nothing to do with just in the office. Leadership starts by leading, our own life. And I'm seeing you as one of the very strong leader. So what is your success mantra for how you actually lead your life? Like I see that positivity is one of the aspect, right? On a day-to-day basis, how you keep yourself motivated?
I always believe that leadership shouldn't come with a definition of top to down or bottom to up. This is the first thing, because it has to be from every section or from every level of the hierarchy, right? Even if it's your personal life, or so let's talk about the personal life. You have your household helps, right? They are one of your I would say greatest lessons for leadership, because the way they have left their old their villages, and they've come to the metropolitans to serve you. So that should rather encourage you how to take the first step in your life, because that in itself is a big milestone for anyone. Second, when you go to your work, or when you run your own business, right, you need to see how the lowest person in the hierarchy is striving his best to give in the best to the organization, right? So you see that consistency factor in that person. You see that that how energized someone can be, right? And I always believe that leadership should not come with any quotations in the sense that they should not be just confined to XYZ said something about leadership, or ABC said something about leadership. It has to be what you practice. It shouldn't be that you just read some quote and you're happy about it. No, what you practice is what the leadership is. And believe you me, there have been many theories around it, but in the practical scenario, it is all dependent upon how valuable are the people around you, and how you cherish them. That's it. If you are able to, I would say, salute their courage, if you are able to recognize their efforts, if you are able to just take up your hand and pull them up during the time required, I think you have all those things which a great leader should have, right? And it should always be that you and the other person are at the same level. Never have that thing in your mind that you are superior to someone, because once that thing comes, then that thing of ego also comes in, right? So just have those things, that everyone is your peer, everyone is on the equal platform, and the journey has to be completed together, rather than you acing ahead and someone just helping you out and building that I would say that milestone for you. So it all has to be from the collective effort sometimes. And the biggest of the example in a leadership, or the most realistic example in a leadership, is the team of 11 players in a cricket. You have the openers, you have the middlemen, you have the all-rounders, you have the spinners, and then you have the fast bowlers, right? But if you see, they all run in for a common goal. At times we criticize our openers that look, during the first five overs, both the openers are out, but then comes the middle order which stabilizes it. So that's how the leadership should be, that if someone falls off, then someone should be there to gear up, to survive, to sustain everyone else, and that too with a common goal, that we need to march ahead and we need to prosper. So I think leadership, and that too in the COVID time, it has taught us that there is nothing what should demotivate you, that you are higher in the hierarchy or you are lower in the hierarchy. It is all equal, because the world has come to one standpoint wherein you are a human being, and the other person also should respect.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely, I love this aspect called leadership is all about practice. It's not just confined to these, few quotes like you said. And on top of that, maybe the biggest lesson we should have learned, and most of the people might have learned from COVID, is we are all equal. And we are not in competition with each other. Rather, we are actually going collectively in as a humanity. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons from COVID. Let me ask slightly a different question. I just was curious to think why, CA and lawyer. It's a very unique combination. What made you to think of doing these two together?
Yes. So actually, so right from my childhood, I have been a national level debater at various platforms, and I always love to write for various newspapers and all. So that inner habit of debating, extempore participation and all was always there. And when I was studying my academics during my chartered accountancy days or during my graduation days, I could see that I have more inclination towards the legal and the law side. But since I was completing my chartered accountancy, and so that's when I thought that I should also enroll in for the LLB course, which would definitely be an added advantage, which some people at times say that it's considered as a deadly combination, wherein you are a CA and a lawyer. But yes, it's all just because of my interest towards a specific field of taxation, which requires you to read a lot, because there is a very small or a simple justification to it, that as you would be aware that in our country every day you have new rulings, you have new judgments, right? So that requires you to read and interpret, right? And this is what my passion is. So that was the primary reason to to LLB post my CV.
Wow. Actually, and this also is again another evidence for me to see that, you follow your passion, finding your passion and pursuing it. It doesn't matter how unique it is, that will naturally get you into the wonders. But let me ask, right?
And also, just to add upon, never ever think that any mission cannot be accomplished, because at times what we think is that, look, I can't do this, and if we start off any mission by that statement, believe you me, somewhere down the line in your mind, it creates that negative factor, right? So if at all, during any point of time in your life, you feel you can't do it, always remember one, I would say, kindergarten story, what all of you would have heard of, that the ant used to climb the wall and she used to fall off, right? 1,000 times she climbed, but she fell. But 1001, that's 1001 time, when she did it, she accomplished it. That's what we are, right? That we need to strive and for the best. And believe you me, once you get that momentum, once you pump in yourself, then what come may, you will definitely prosper. And never ever think that anything is far beyond you or you can't achieve it, because it is you who has to do it and no one else can do it. So just have that confidence in yourself, just have that elimination of that fear from you, and just keep on working hard. But I would also like to highlight that the time is of smart work, not of hard work, right? Because hard work, we have heard that story of a donkey, right? The donkey is always a hard worker, but the smart worker is the one who saves in time and races ahead. So just be smart in your work, just have that faith in yourself and your hard work, and then rest, leave it to the destiny.
Yeah. I think what you've said about smart work is very important, because smart work allows us to have fun with whatever we are doing. If you're only working hard, means you don't have time to really even reflect upon what you're doing and how much you achieve, because you're too busy in actually only working. So this is really very important what you said. So let me ask, nowadays, even the startups are actually starting with the mindset that, we are going to go global straight away, right? So I just want to ask you to kind of give an idea, if the startup's going to start at this time, if they're having some idea of how this transfer pricing and the taxation, what kind of care they should take, especially at a very initial stage, if they have planned that by 5 years, maybe if you want to move out into the international arena, right?
So specific to transfer pricing for any startup, right? Which is planning to, let's say, expand their wings in the coming years and all, right? What you need to keep in mind are a couple of things. First is the arrangement, what you're going to do with your international entity. Arrangement in the sense, the kind of transactions you are going to do with them, the kind of compensation you are going to pay or you're going to receive. Because all this is covered under the ambit of transfer pricing, right? So all these transactions have to be at an arm's length arrangement. So I'm just answering this question just as a layman, not getting too much into the technical side of it, right? And also you need to see that how the structuring of your whole group of the upcoming startup is, so that you are one of the most tax effective and efficient structure, right? That it shouldn't be that although your revenues are growing, but the taxes what you're paying, those are also multiplying, along with the revenue, that too at a higher pace, right? So it has to be the effective and the efficient structure. Third, it has to be that, during the initial years of any startup, don't get too much into the race of that you want to become, let's say, Amazon founder, or you want to become XYZ just during the 5 years. All those success stories happen, I would say, once in a decade. or once in 100 years, right? So no one can step into the shoes of Steve Jobs, because Steve Jobs himself took around, I would say, 10-15 years to bring in that brand of Apple, right? In the words of our ex-president of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, that have those wings and fly, but don't think that you are already an aircraft. Don't get loaded with too much of borrowings right at the start, because then the feathers of your venture might get cut short. Reason being that you might be having amazing ideas, but then the obligations would be much higher than those ideas, and then you would be compelled to first clear off your debts and the rest of it. Just make sure that you are doing the bestest and the finest of the I would say service to the society too, because what I have seen in the startups is that apart from certain of those social startups, what I have seen is that they always run in for the money. That's the crazy race what they do. But what they forget is, as we were discussing this 5-10 minutes back, that the more you give to the society, the more you prosper. If at all you wish to expand your business horizons to across the globe, just stay within the compliance limits of each and every jurisdiction. Don't try to escape that, because otherwise it will be very, very difficult.
How one can decide the difference between tax efficiency or probably violating some of the tax rules in an overseas country? What would be your advice?
If at all you are planning to take up your steps cross-border, right? First, have all the understanding from your learned financial advisor or your chartered accountant or your international tax advisor as to what kind of structuring you want, right? Second, you also need to take into account various different factors, like because there are I would say there is a never ending or a long list of issues of international tax, like a permanent establishment issue, or for that matter there are certain issues around the double taxation avoidance agreements, that's the DTAAs, and so on and so forth. So you need to have the knowledge of all of these things before you proceed and start having those ventures functional. There are certain tax havens and all, but if you see off late, the just last week G7 has now come up with major reforms wherein they have standardized the rates of taxes and so on and so forth. So now those, I would say, those blooming days of the tax havens and all might just be a once upon a time story, right? Because now everything will come under the lens of the tax administrations of respective countries, right? So the best way out is that you read and you understand, or you get advice from anyone, that how is the tax mechanism in the other country, how is the and when I say tax, so please just don't concentrate yourself on the direct tax. Even the indirect taxes you need to take care of. Second, at times there are a lot of regulations which state that you need this much of your balance sheet, then only we will invite you for having a investment in our country. So all of these things also require your RBI, your FEMA approvals and all. So just be compliant of all of these things. And my only advice would be, don't have too much of complex structures, because the more you spread your wings, the more easier structure you should have. Then only you will be able to concentrate on your core business rather than getting into the other side of the compliances. So I think just be aware of what the tax evasions could result in, what the compliances should be, and of course there are a lot of initiatives like in our own country we have Make in India. Same in various other countries also, they do invite in investments from various parts of the globe. another example is the Middle East countries, right? They do invite investments from various parts of the globe, but mind you, it is in a very rarest of the rare situation that you'll be given a citizenship, right? So you'll still be considered as a non-resident or something. So you need to keep in mind all these peculiar aspects before you land yourself in some other country or some other jurisdiction, because there are a lot of nowadays, post the implementation of OECD and the BEPS action plans and all, now the exchange of information between one tax jurisdiction and the other is so transparent that they can easily exchange the data of a particular applicant or a particular company. So now you can't window dress anything, or you can't show something here and something different there, because now it is free exchange of information between two tax jurisdictions, between their authorities. So just be mindful of all these things. Yeah.
So either be absolutely informative in taking decisions, or just go to an expert, either like Himanshu. You can actually go to him for two reasons. One, if it is for transfer pricing or taxation, or maybe how you can be inspired all the time. So you can actually approach to Himanshu for both of this. I'll leave his connections also in the description. Himanshu, I want to say a big thanks to you for sharing all your real life experiences, both on your personal front, in your journey, at the same time in your career. So audience, if you have not yet liked or subscribed, make sure to hit that subscriber button. Also share with every person out there where this message can make an impact in their lives. But otherwise, any last advice, Himanshu, before we conclude this?
So I would just like to conclude this session by one mantra of my life, that's aspire to inspire before you expire.
Wow. Yeah. I'm already having goosebumps. Yeah. I think this is the mantra, not just for you, but as a young generation. If you're actually aspiring to inspire, you're literally carrying the entire world on your shoulders. So yeah, this is $1 million message from Himanshu. So I thank once again for all of you for tuning in. I will see you next week with another amazing entrepreneur. But for now, me and Himanshu says thank you so much and bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rajesh. Thank you so much, everyone.